Hey everybody, Mr. Regan here, and today we're going to be looking at how we're going to be taking the example proposal that we just saw, and we're going to be using that to help us take our outlines that we created in the last lesson and begin creating our final design proposal. So today we're going to be breaking down how to turn that outline into a paragraph for our proposal. Each of those three outlines will be turned into three paragraphs, and how to use our Malaria design proposal doc to begin writing your proposal. So we're going to break those two things down. And as always, if you put your X in yellow or red, please let me know. Let's go ahead and take a look at how we are going to accomplish this. So we started our phase 3 by creating outlines that had our evidence for why our design proposal was optimal. And we began by looking for evidence along with some information to help us organize our thoughts. We needed our final results for each criteria, whether it was side effects or cost, or if it was the resistance level. We had to have our design goal. We needed to compare it to another design and talk about why it was better or more optimal than another. And then we had to look at other background research, whether it was information from our dossier, information from our isolated tests, or information from other iterative tests to help us explain like why our test was optimal. And we had to put that into our outlines. So we created an outline that looked very similar to this for each of our three criteria. Now, this one obviously has side effects, and it broke down our final results, our goal, it compared our design, and this one had an example of iterative test data. This one had an example of data from our dossier. So our goal was to try to find multiple pieces of data, at least two, for each of our criteria to kind of explain why our design results, why our design goal was optimal. And now we have read an article where they've taken those ideas, those outlines, and they've written a design proposal for this toothbrush example. And we're going to use that toothbrush article as a way of practicing and analyzing how well they wrote their proposal. So as we break it down here, we're going to look at three important questions. Number one, did they use enough evidence in their write-up, in their proposal? Is the evidence related to the specific criteria? And are there other ways to improve the outline? So each one of those paragraphs in the very middle, where it said design decision, had their three criteria, and each of their criteria was written from an outline, just like ours. So it might have looked something like this. So when they wrote their toothbrush example, they focused on the criteria of keeping mouths clean. So that was one of their criteria. And in order to decide if they were doing that, they had a specific test they would run. And their test had a certain percentage of their mouth that was clean. So 84% was their final result. Their goal was 80%. So obviously they did better than their goal, which is great. They compared their design to another iterative test they did where they used a cheaper design that had this nylon bristles for a buck 20 per toothbrush, but the mouth rating was 53%. So they found a cheaper way of making the toothbrush, but it led to a mouth rating that was lower than theirs. So in their background research, they found some important information. Number one, they found that the more that the nylon bristles that they use removed more plaque, which meant that there was less tooth decay. So people are now healthier. They included some information that said bamboo handles are better for the environment. They included some information that said the strength of the handle affected how much plaque is removed. And they included some information about plastic handles are stronger. So they have all of this information here that relates not only to the idea of keeping the mouth clean, but increasing that percentage. So they took this information and they wrote the following paragraph for their design decision. So for keeping the mouth clean, their design has a mouth rating of 84, which is better than their goal. They found that the plastic bristles and the natural fiber bristles both removed at least 80% of plaque. And since more removed plaque means less tooth decay, people are now healthier. So notice they're connecting this idea of the type of bristles they're using to what happens when they have good bristles. When they're able to remove more removed plaque, that means people are now healthier. So again, higher percentages, healthier people. They're connecting it to that background research. Therefore, we selected the natural fiber bristles for their design. Their cheaper design used nylon bristles for 120, but theirs obviously used the natural ones. But the mouth rating was only 53%. So notice they're bringing in that information about where they compared their current optimal design to an older iterative test. The plant-based plastic handled also affected the clean mouth rating because the strength of the handle affects how much plaque is removed. Plastics are stiffer and help people remove more plaque, while brushes compared to more flexible handles made from all plant material. So notice they're bringing in all of this purple information, this background information to connect to this idea that removing more plaque means healthier people. More plaque being removed leads to a higher percentage. They're bringing in all of these details that they learned through their iterative tests. If they have a stronger handle, if they have the plastic that they need, all these things are going to remove more plaque, which is better for their rating. Now, notice nowhere did they include this red information. And because of that, this is not important for their criteria. How the bamboo handle relates to the environment has nothing to do with the cleanliness. So when we go back to those three questions, is there enough evidence here? Yeah, there's enough evidence. They have a lot of evidence. They compared it to other iterative tests. They pulled in a lot of background information. They did a great job here. Is the evidence related to the specific criteria? Not all of it, but most. So that red part there, they would have to leave out. So they'd have to look at it and say, okay, this has nothing to do with my clean mouth criteria. So if you're pulling in information about the resistance level, but then you start talking about the cost, if the two don't relate, it shouldn't be in this section. Last but not least, are there ways to improve this? So they use their background in iterative tests. So they use two really strong pieces of evidence. They would get the meets on the rubric. If that's what they're going for, great. If they want the exceeds, they'd have to look at that part of the rubric. The one thing I would say is none of the vocab was used, though. If we look at that paragraph, they didn't use any vocab. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's how we use our outline to begin creating our paragraphs and helping us revise what we need. Your job is going to be able to pull in all that information, write your paragraphs so it meets all the requirements on the rubric. To do that, you're going to be adding your malaria design proposal doc to your drive. That'll be on the next set of tasks. You'll click on the document, you'll submit it as always. And in there, you're going to have your three criteria, 1, 2, 3. And in there, that's where you're going to write your paragraph. You're going to need to use your outline to help you write those paragraphs. In the paragraph proposal here, if you click on that, that'll have some sentence starters to help you. They'll help you with your criteria. They'll help you with examples for how to write it and the introduction and conclusion for when we get there. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's how we turn our outline into a paragraph for a proposal and how we use our malaria doc to begin writing. If you have questions or want to get started together, let me know. Otherwise, good luck.